from Florida Gateway College. This is Candidate Forum 2014. Tonight, the candidates for U.S. House of Representatives for the 3rd District of Florida, the candidates for Columbia County School Board District 1, and the candidates for Columbia County Commission District 4 will be here to answer questions of concern to you, the voters. Candidate Forum 2014 is sponsored by Drawdy Insurance Services, also by Potash Corp of White Springs, by Florida Gateway College, and by the Lake City Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. Now here are your hosts for Candidate Forum 2014, the news editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges, and from Florida Gateway College, Mike McKee.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Candidate Forum 2014. Along with Lake City Reporter editor Robert Bridges, I'm Mike McKee. And for the next 90 minutes, we will hear from the candidates running for U.S. House of Representatives District 3, School Board District 1, and the Columbia County Commission District 4. Tonight's forum is brought to you by Drawdy Insurance Services and Potash Corporation of White Springs. We thank them for their support. The rules for tonight's forum are a little different. Each candidate will be given a 2-minute opening statement and a 2-minute closing statement, and each candidate will be asked questions. They will have 1 minute to answer each of those questions. Then, following each of those questions, the candidates will be allowed 30 seconds to rebut his or her opponent. Our first segment of the evening is with the candidates for U.S. House of Representatives District 3, with incumbent Ted Yoho and challenger Mary Helen Wheeler. Candidate Howard Lawson was invited to participate but did not respond to our invitation and unfortunately will be not included in this evening's forum. We drew numbers prior to coming into the studio this evening, and candidate Wheeler drew the number 1. Ms. Wheeler, you have 2 minutes to address the constituents of Columbia County.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mary Helen Wheeler, and I am a candidate for the United States House of Representatives, Florida District 3. I'm an educator. I've been teaching in this district for about 30 years, 20 years in Alachua County and another 10 years in Levy County. And during that time, I've reached probably about 6,000 families in this district, working with them intimately as I teach their children. And I feel like I have a very strong understanding of the needs of the working family in this district. But I'm also an advocate for the environment. I've been working with water issues for the last 10 years. And water is the lifeblood of this economy as it supports our agriculture and aquaculture and ecotourism of the district. It's a beautiful district, 13 counties that runs from the Gulf of Mexico to the St. Johns River, all the way to the Georgia border down towards Inverness. So water is an issue that needs to be addressed. And I feel as an educator and an environmentalist, I have the skill set required to listen and learn and let Washington understand the needs of this district.
Thank you very much. And now, Congressman Ted Yoho, you have 2 minutes to address the constituents of Columbia County.
Hello, my name is Ted Yoho, and it's been an honor and a privilege to be your conservative voice in Washington, D.C. for the last 2 years. I feel America is the greatest country on earth. But yet we have many challenges facing us as a nation. We are approaching $18 trillion in debt. We lack jobs to get us out of this stagnant economy, high quality jobs. Our immigration system is broke, and our foreign policy has failed us. What I look forward to do with all these problems, what I've realized is we can't solve these problems by just being a Republican or just being a Democrat. But if we come together as Americans, we can solve these problems. And I look forward to going back to work on the initiatives that we've started, bringing jobs into this area like Jack's Port, the improvements that we've talked about and we've helped bring in there that would create thousands of jobs here in North Central Florida, to work with our seniors to secure the Social Security benefits that that is their money, that the government must honor those contracts. And we'll continue to fight for our veterans the way they fought for us, for the freedoms that we've had in this country, to make sure they have access to the care that they deserve and that they've earned. And I look forward to doing these things as your conservative voice up there. In addition, we went up with an attitude of saving the taxpayers' money, and we set a goal to send back over $100,000 of the taxpayers' money, and I'm happy to report we sent back over $240,000 of your money. And I look forward to continue that work, and thank you.
Thank you very much. And now it's time for the question and answer segment of our broadcast. And to ask the questions of each of the candidates, Lake City Reporter Editor, Mr. Robert Bridges. Robert?
Thanks, Mike. Ms. Wheeler, first question for you. What could or should the CDC have done differently concerning Ebola?
Well, I think that the response, I think at this point the response has been adequate. We have 4 cases that we know about in this country, and we have spent a great deal of time in supporting our research, but not as much as we could. We are sending our young people, the military, to Africa to address this situation, which is an appropriate response for taking the fight to where it actually is happening. And of course, we are seeing it travel across the universe, or the world, because we are a global economy anymore and people travel. And so it's going to be very hard to make sure that we take care of this issue without totally securing the borders, which at this point is not a response, because we do have a global economy. But I feel like that our response from the CDC is adequate, and at this point, hopefully we'll take care of that.
Mr. Yoho, same question for you. What could or should the CDC have done differently in response to Ebola?
Okay, you have short-term responses and long-term. Short-term, we need to restrict travel from West African countries here. In addition, there should be a quarantine period for people leaving West African nations. In addition, the CDC should have put a quarantine on anybody that was exposed to Mr. Duncan or anybody that's positive from the Ebola virus. This is just common sense. This is stuff we do in epidemiology all the time. Being a large animal veterinarian, we've dealt with outbreaks all along. Long term, the government should have been prepared for this. This virus has been known about since 1976. We should have had vaccines developed, and we should be ready for the next virus that comes out. And the money is there. We just need to utilize it different. And this goes back to leadership from the top down. This goes down to having leadership and putting what's best for America at heart, and we should do that first. But that's where we're at with the president, with wanting him to bring out an Ebola czar. It's the wrong way to go. And I'll look forward to your other questions. Thank you.
Ms. Wheeler, do you have any response to what Mr. Yoho said?
No.
Mr. Yoho, do you have any response to anything that Ms. Wheeler has said so far?
I think we do need to look at securing our borders. This is, in fact, with what's going on in the nation at this point in time in our history, we're beyond, this is not just about immigration. This is about national security, not just from a foreign terrorist group, but also from the threat of like Ebola. This is something that if we have the safeguards in place and common sense epidemiological protocols in place, we won't be caught short-handed. And this is something the CDC has failed at this, and they should have had this protocol ready to go, and all the way down to the hospitals on dealing with contaminated equipment.
All right, next question will go to you, Mr. Yoho. Where do we go next in the war on ISIS? At some point, will there have to be U.S. boots on the ground in Syria or anywhere else in this conflict?
God, I hope not. I don't want to see our young men and women go to another Middle Eastern country. What we have to do is, I'm okay with the airstrikes. I do not want our young men and women on the ground. We've already got about 3,000 people training. I'm okay in a training capacity. But when we talk about going in there just in a training capacity, we did that in Vietnam. We were in there to help the people of Vietnam. We don't want to do that in this fight, which wound up escalating into a fight. I think we need to help the Kurds with armament and training their troops in our fighting styles, and not leave equipment over there like we have. I mean, the ISIS fighters have picked up airplanes from Iraq. The Iraqi soldiers are training them how to fight against us eventually. And this is something that goes with securing our borders and also restricting people that have gone over there that have been associated with a foreign terrorist group. Their passports need to be taken away and prevented from coming back into this country. Thank you.
Ms. Wheeler, same question for you. Where do we go next in the war against ISIS? And will we have to have U.S. boots on the ground at some point in Syria? Or anywhere else in the Middle East?
As a teacher who works with these children, young people, raising them up to get them ready to go out into the world, I'm hoping that that's not the case. I would not support boots on the ground. I grew up close to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, the 101st Airborne, so I know the strength of the United States military and what it's capable of. But I also know from the lessons of Vietnam, where we have political boundaries that are in opposition to cultural and historic boundaries. And we don't always know when we go into these places or understand the history. So we don't always understand the relationships of these people as well. But I would not support sending our military back in. We're exhausted financially and physically, and I would not support sending that at this point.
Mr. Yoho, would you like to respond or rebut anything?
Yeah, I would, because again, when we look back at Vietnam, we had advisors on the ground, and that escalated into the Vietnam War. We don't want to do that again. What we need to do is, this is really a sign of redirecting our foreign policy. I had a group of people come into our office talking about raising the terrorist insurance premiums in this country. And I said, the mere fact that you're in my office in Washington, D.C., talking about terrorist insurance in America is a total indicator that our foreign policy is off track. What we need to get to is dealing with trade and not giving foreign aid and telling people how to live.
Ms. Wheeler, would you like to respond to anything Mr. Yoho has said on this question?
Well, just that I agree with the idea that we did not learn our lessons from the Vietnam War. It's a similar situation with not understanding the history and culture of a people before we actually go in to try to intervene.
Ms. Wheeler, as the Dow Jones Industrial Average soars in recent years, the gap between Wall Street and Main Street grows ever wider. What are the short-term and long-term causes for this?
Well, we've seen the economic recovery really serve the 1% pretty well. If you are looking at the charts the way I look at the charts, the rest of us have flatlined pretty much, while the top 1% seems to have succeeded very well in maintaining the wealth and also widening that gap between working people like me and the people that I know and those at the top. We have an $18 trillion debt that needs to be addressed. We have minimum wage that needs to be raised. We need to have economic recovery benefit all of us to the point where the middle class doesn't have to experience the trickle down that we were hoping that the upper 1% would take care of. So that gap needs to be addressed by making sure that the standard of living is accessible, or that greater standard of living is accessible to everyone.
Mr. Yoho, the gap widens, Wall Street and Main Street. What are the short-term and what are the long-term causes for this?
I think if you look at that in a couple of different parts, one is we need tax reform in this country. We need regulatory reform so that we can get our businesses back in America to create the high-paying jobs, the quality jobs. In this economic recovery, this is the highest time that we've had so many people working either part-time or underemployed, and the wages aren't there to keep them up with the growth of the economy. In addition, our debt, our national debt approaching $18 trillion, has created an inflation. It's kind of a hidden inflation that people don't see. Their spending power has been reduced because of the Federal Reserve keeps printing money, which reduces the value of our dollar. The way you're going to resolve this is get quality jobs here in the district. We've worked with Jacksport, we've worked with the intermodal transportation hubs right here in the district, bringing higher quality jobs into this area. Minimum wage is not going to help people get into the stock market to invest. High quality jobs to give people opportunity to move beyond where they're at, and that's what we're going to continue to work with. Thanks.
Ms. Wheeler, would you like to respond?
Well, I would like to say that I think that the minimum wage being raised would help people come off some of the social programs that we've criticized recently, and would also give people an opportunity to actually raise the standard of living for their families and make it possible for them to enjoy that American dream that everyone is talking about in this country.
Next question. Yeah, I'm sorry. Left you out.
I worked at minimum wage. My wife and I are products of the American dream, as a lot of people are. We've raised the minimum wage 14 times since 1970. That's not going to help people move off of government assistance. It'll help a few, but what it's been shown is if you raise the minimum wage too much, it increases unemployment. Australia is a perfect example. They raised the minimum wage to over $15 an hour. Companies like Ford, GM, and Mercedes or Toyota pulled out, and so it moves in the wrong direction. We want high quality jobs here. That's what will fix this.
Mr. Yoho, we'll stick with you for the next question. Will the Senate go Republican in November? And if so, what can we expect from the new Congress?
All indications are the Senate will move forward to the Republican side, which is great for this nation. When people talk about a dysfunctionality of Congress, if you look at the overall picture, absolutely. But if you break it down and diagnose the underlying problem, the House has done a pretty good job. Could we do better? Sure. But we've passed over 40 bills, and they've gone over to Harry Reid's desk. Harry Reid has refused to pick these up. An example is there's 12 major appropriations that spend the money for the federal government, the American taxpayers' money. We've passed 7 of those that would keep us from short-term spending in those continuing resolutions. All 7 are sitting at Harry Reid's desk, and he refuses to bring those up. He's holding America back, and we have to put politics aside. And like I said, the only way we're going to solve these problems is by focusing on what's best for America, and a Republican Senate will do that. Then those decisions are going to be made by President Obama, and he'll have to tell the American people why he doesn't want to pass these bills.
Ms. Wheeler, is the Senate going to go Republican, and if so, what do we expect from the new Congress?
Well, I can't say that I believe that it's going to do that. Unless we are looking at severe voting restrictions like we're seeing happen across this country, I can't help but think that we're going to have the voters come out and actually decide this. It would be very hard for me to say that the Republicans have this, because there are a lot of people pretty unhappy with the way the Republican leadership has led us and blocked progress in some of the major issues that we are looking at in this country in terms of economics or immigration reform, the Affordable Care Act. You know, I just can't help but think that there are quite a few people out there like me who are unhappy with the Republican leadership and are not going to let that happen.
Mr. Yoho, any response?
Yes. I have to agree with her a little bit. You know, when you look at the overall picture, I voted against my Republican leadership because we need stronger leadership at this time in our country. And with the Republican Senate, we can move things and initiatives forward. We can solve immigration. We've got a plan to solve immigration. I'll be happy to talk to anybody about that. And we've got other things to stimulate our economy, and that's really what America needs right now. And we have to stop playing party politics and put America first. And the agenda that we have set up, I think, will move real forward, because it won't be held up by one person in the Senate named Harry Reid.
Ms. Wheeler, would you like to add anything?
Well, we've seen a lot of stalling happen from the other side as well. And Mr. Boehner, who has not allowed the immigration votes on the floor where the rest of us have been working, and this has been an issue that I've been working with for the last couple of years, is immigration reform as it relates to students and also the farm workers in this area. And I know for certain that it's not been allowed to come to the floor because of the Republican leadership.
Ms. Wheeler, we'll stick with you for the next question. At least 2 of the candidates in this 3-candidate race espouse a constitutional amendment enforcing term limits in some form for Congress. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, you know, I'm looking at our congressman who's been here for 2 years and now having to spend quite a bit of his time campaigning now, rather than being in Washington working. And I see this across the country where people were actually released early in September to come home to work on their races. Now, I'm a school teacher, and I have taught for 37 years. This is the first time I've ever been able to take a leave of absence. And that leave of absence, I'm unpaid. And I'm afraid that our Congress people who've been sent home when there's lots of work to do in terms of Ebola and the war we're trying to decide if we're in Syria or not, it's not being addressed because people are home politicking. It would be very nice to think that there might be an extension of that time so that they didn't have to spend half of their time campaigning to make sure that they were in office for another 2 years.
Thank you, Mr. Yoho. Same question. You're a proponent of term limits. What is the reasoning behind that, please?
Okay. I ran on 8 years, 4 terms, no more. It was good enough for George Washington. It's good enough for me. Congress, the way the founders set it up, is the House of Representatives is the most powerful branch of government. It's a 2-year term by design. There is term limits if the voters are engaged. So it takes an informed electorate to cause term limits. And if you look at Congress overall, if you look at the people that are serving right now, over 50% of them have served less than 5 years. And so we have a form of term limits already. What you don't want is the career politician. You don't want to send people up there for a career. I didn't go up there for a job. I went up there for a cause, and that cause is to help get this country back on track. And when Ms. Wheeler says that Congress adjourned, I went back up there for a week to work on legislation. We sat on foreign affairs and dealt with Sergeant Tamarisi. We're going right after the elections. We're going on some trips to deal with foreign affairs in different countries. And so when we're back in the district, we're working here. We're not just sitting around at the beach. So thank you.
Ms. Wheeler, would you like to respond?
Yes, I would. Some people are very good at their job, and it takes a while to learn this, I'm sure. Just in preparing to campaign, I feel like that I've been doing quite a bit of study. And when you actually get to that office, when you're not a politician by trade, it takes a while to actually learn this work. So I would say that I wouldn't have a problem with someone who is being elected and re-elected by their constituents because they feel like they're doing a good job, that they should return to Washington to use their expertise.
Mr. Yoho.
Again, when the founders set this up, if somebody is doing a good job, they should have the ability to stay there. But again, it takes an informed electorate. And again, when Congress is on break, I can't speak for every other congressman, but I know when we come back into the district, we start our morning at 7 or 7:30, and we go through dealing with constituent cases. We're meeting business owners. We're hearing from different groups, and we're dealing with things in the district that we take back to Washington to help come up with legislation, and we've done that ever since we've gone up there. And so I feel like I work harder when I'm back in the district than I am up there when people think we're on recess. So I appreciate you letting me clarify that.
Okay, last question of the evening for this segment. Mr. Yoho, what very specific measures can be taken to bring economic relief to District 3?
The best thing is for government to get out of the way of businesses so they don't stifle the entrepreneur or the economic engine. Raising the minimum wage would be bad for this area. States have minimum wages. In fact, the state of Florida has a higher minimum wage than the federal government. Repealing the Affordable Care Act, but just not repealing it, replacing it with the 2 different initiatives that we have that would put health care back into the hands of the individual. And then what we have done since we've been in Congress, we've worked with JAXPORT to help the improvement of JAXPORT so that we can bring the Panamanian, after the post-Panamanian Canal gets dredged, those ships will come to JAXPORT, and from JAXPORT there'll be a spinoff, not just here in Lake City, but in Ocala and other parts of the district. We've worked with companies to come down to the Alachua Progress Park. Companies are coming in there, they're high-tech companies, and the beauty of what we have in North Central Florida with the agriculture, the education, the tourism that we have here with our springs and all that great stuff is we have a workforce that can be trained by the different colleges around here, and so we're going to continue to work for that.
Ms. Wheeler, same question. What very specific measures can be taken to bring some measure of economic relief to District 3?
Well, I do believe in raising the minimum wage, and I do believe in reinforcing the Affordable Care Act and expanding Medicaid. I believe in making sure that we need to get the internet to some of these outlying areas so that people have access to the world, have access to global trade, if they decide through their entrepreneurial work that they would like to be able to export their ideas or their products. I would like to see our vocational programs bolstered so that we can encourage not only our STEM students from the universities, but also our young people who are interested in trades and making sure that they're well prepared for vocations. I would like to make sure that our environment is protected. I don't believe that by the Jacksport that we're talking about, the dredging of the Panama Canal, is going to be good for Florida's environment. And so I would like to make sure that those things are protected.
Mr. Yoho, in response?
Yeah, I agree in that we need to look at all education, not just vocational, but college too, and make it affordable. I mean, today with the Bright Futures program in Florida, kids can go to college free. It's an avenue for them to go. The dredging of Jacksport, the improvements that are going to be made there are economic development. We don't want some bureaucrat or federal agency deciding how we treat our environment here. The people of Florida are best to do this. We're all stewards of the land, and it's our responsibility to make sure that we leave this area better than when we found it, if not better, and we'll work to do that. Thanks.
Ms. Wheeler, would you?
Yes, please. The corporate world that we see coming into Florida is putting our environment in jeopardy, which means it's putting our lifestyle in jeopardy. And so we, in this district particularly, because it has a large rural population, we have the Gulf of Mexico where the oysters and clammers, we have the loggers, we have the tourists that come here looking for the fresh and clean water that supports our economy as well. Those things are in jeopardy if we do not watch the corporate intrusion into the state.
Thank you both very much for the answers to those questions. That concludes the question and answer segment of this section of the forum. It's time now for each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement. And since candidate Wheeler went first, she will go last. Candidate Yoho, you have 2 minutes to close to the voters of North Florida.
Again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, you guys putting this forum on. And I also appreciate you, the voters, the constituents of North Florida's 3rd Congressional District, which I truly feel in my heart is the best district of Florida. I promote this district all the time, and it's been an honor and a privilege to serve you in Washington. What we need at this point in time is, like I said, we need to work together as Americans. I've done that. We've worked with people across the aisle. We've got legislation passed in a bipartisan manner, meaning both Democrats and Republicans. And I look forward with the initiatives that we have. We have an educational reform bill that's going to be a bipartisan with Republicans and Democrats that'll streamline education to improve our results of our kids so that they come out of college. And while we work to bring in better paying jobs into this area, these children will have a place to go, higher quality jobs, so they don't have to think about an entry level position maybe at minimum wage. We want them beyond that so that they can take advantage of that opportunity. That very thing that creates the American dream, that defines what America is. It's the very essence of what it means to be an American. And I look forward to going back to represent you. And I want to bring accountability back to Washington by holding myself accountable to myself and to you, the voters. And I think we've done a good job of doing that, and we want to continue on that. And I just thank you for the opportunity to be here and to be your representative, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much. And now, a 2-minute closing statement from the challenger, Mary Helen Wheeler.
The Wheeler campaign has been a very serious campaign. Many people questioned us coming into this race because of the myth of the gerrymandering of the district. In reality, there are 40% Republicans registered in this district, 38% Democrats, and another 22% that are no party affiliate. So we feel like that the numbers are there that make this a realistic run. And what we would like to do is to convince those folks who have not been happy or felt like that their representation has not been there for them to go to our website at wheelerforflorida3.com and check it out and see if there's not something there that you can support. We are asking for your vote in November the 4th because we feel like that our campaign does speak for the working families of District 3, and that we feel like that our representation in Washington by a strong, hardworking American woman is what is needed to actually get Congress moving forward. Congress has been stuck, and we feel like that we as women can make sure that that job is getting done. Thank you.
And that concludes the first segment of our candidate forum this evening. When we come back on Florida Gateway College Television, we'll meet the candidates for Columbia County School Board District 1. You're watching Candidate Forums on Florida Gateway College Television. Don't go away.
Every student at Florida Gateway College has their own story, personal goal, and journey.
I'm going to college for my mom, and I know she's rooting for me.
That's why we wanted to celebrate them and their success.
I'm at FGC to invest in my future.
That's why we focus on helping you get the education you need to get where you're going.
Florida Gateway College has afforded me the ability to deliver the best health care to my community.
Find the program or degree that's right for you and start your journey today at fgc.edu.
Every day across America, excess food is gathered by a network of good people at local food banks, giving hope to millions of children who struggle with hunger. They've earned their wings, and you can too. Together, we can solve child hunger. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Daddy, I'm gonna find you.
Welcome back to Candidate Forum 2014, along with the editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges. I'm Mike McKee. Tonight's forum is brought to you by Drawdy Insurance Services and Potash Corporation of White Springs. We thank them for their support of this Chamber of Commerce joint sponsored event with Florida Gateway College and the Lake City Reporter. The rules for the second segment of the night with the candidates for school board are the same as the first. Each candidate will be given a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing statement. And then each candidate is afforded 1 minute to answer each of our questions. Each candidate will then be given a 30-second rebuttal to counter his opponent's statement. The candidates for the School Board District 1 are incumbent Lenard Johnson and the challenger Danny Green. We drew numbers before coming into the studio this evening, and candidate Green drew the number 1. Mr. Green, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of District 1.
Good evening, and I would like to thank Florida Gateway College, the Lake City Reporter, and the Chamber of Commerce for hosting this forum tonight. To the voters that have tuned in tonight, it shows great concern and passion about the upcoming election for the school board. To the voters that supported me in the primary, I am a first-time candidate for any public office and was able to receive a majority of the votes in 5 out of the 7 precincts, which I think shows the desire of the constituents of District 1 for a change in leadership. Our school system has faced some challenges in the past 9 months. Dual enrollment questions, charter school issues, administrative changes in a lot of our elementary schools, abuse, unanticipated growth in enrollment in some of our schools, and also being able to retain high-quality teachers in all of our schools to provide the best education for our students. I am Daniel C. Danny Green, your candidate for District 1 School Board. I was born and raised in Columbia County and spent most of my adult life here. I have been married to my wife Pam for 39 years, and we have lived in the Falling Creek area for 36 years. We have 3 adult sons, Todd, Corey, and Cole. What will I bring to the school board? I bring 43 years of outstanding teaching experience, considered to be one of the most successful head football coaches in the history of the state of Florida. But more importantly, what I want to do is make sure that we always look at our students and consider them as our number one priority. I want to improve student achievement and be able to provide a positive learning experience for all of our students. This forum tonight will not define me. It's not about answering questions or giving a rebuttal to my opponent. It's for the voters to know who I am. I will not sit here and pretend that I have all the answers, but what I will let you know and promise you that I will do everything humanly possible to answer your needs and concerns on a daily basis.
Thank you very much. And now the incumbent, Lenard Johnson, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of your district.
Good evening, voters. Voters, it is your constitutional right to elect leaders to represent you. Anyone has a right to run for a public office. I teach my students that in civics. It is their responsibility and duty to vote for the candidate that is most qualified. Voters, I am the more qualified individual in District 1 to represent you and your children on the school board. Experience and demonstrated ability count. I have 12 years of experience on the board, and my decision-making and ability to fight for what is right and best for your children has been documented. For example, I led the fight to reduce fees for student and dual enrollment. I was significantly involved in making the process of hiring administrators fair and more open or transparent. I have listened to your concerns and passions about your child's education. My decisions have included integrity, compassion, intelligence, forethought, and wisdom as noted by others. The Lake City Reporter, the North Florida Tea Party Governing Board, as well as respected leaders in our community have all endorsed me and agree that I am more qualified and should remain on the board. I have made sound financial decisions which led to continued employment of people who work in our school district and in our community, and provided the necessary tools and materials to educate your child. I humbly ask you to re-elect me, Lenard Johnson, on November 4th, and during early voting, October 25th to November 1, as your school board representative. I would most appreciate your vote and your support. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Candidate Johnson. It's time now for the question and answer segment of our broadcast. And to ask the questions is the editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges. Robert?
Thank you, Mike. We start with Mr. Green. Mr. Green, what are your thoughts on the new Florida standards? How are they similar to or dissimilar from the Common Core standards?
Well, you know, this is a big issue, and there's a lot of controversy concerning Florida standards and Common Core. Florida standards is different from Common Core from the standpoint that the state of Florida tweaked the Common Core and made 98 different changes dealing with the Florida standards. In Common Core, you're responsible for your language in order K through 12, responsible for language, arts, and math. Where the state of Florida, with the Florida standards, they're responsible for all subject areas. So, you know, the Florida standards is a testing situation. I personally feel like that it's being really rushed. I think that, you know, we need to have a grace period concerning implementing Florida standards and give our teachers a better opportunity to attend the workshops and be really prepared, because this is a big transitional situation going from the FCAT to Florida standards.
Mr. Johnson, same question for you. What are your thoughts on the Florida standards? How are they similar to or dissimilar from Common Core?
Well, really they're very similar. Florida Standards was an attempt to correct the wrongs in Common Core, but neither one of them are very good or adequate for our children. Our children have not been adequately prepared, nor have our staff, the teachers and administrators in our school district, to do some of the things that both Florida Standards and Common Core calls for. I'm opposed to each of them at this time because we're simply not ready. Our children has not been developed to answer the questions, and it's not something that should be imposed on our community. I think communities should have a chance of developing their students that fit their economic and educational needs, and Common Core and Florida Standards doesn't do that in my mind. I think we need to take another look about what we're asking teachers and students to do. Thank you.
Mr. Green, do you have anything to add?
I do. Florida Standards, you know, it's about trying to develop, or what they're proposing, it develops better critical thinking skills than our other testing procedures. But you know, in Columbia County and all over the state of Florida, teachers have always been held to doing standards, whether it's sunshine standards or whatever it might be. So, you know, I think down the road, this is something that the students in Columbia County and the teachers, I would not be scared of the Florida Standards because I think our teachers and students could rise to occasion.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, you get the last word on this question.
Yes. The Common Core Standards, Florida Standards, believe it or not, the test pilot for this test has been done on students in Utah. It is no way that our community is compared to some community out in Utah. We shouldn't be forced to do what the state, even the test that is developed to measure their critical thinking skills or other academic achievement is not one that has been tested on Florida students. We should not rush and put our students into situations where they may very well fail.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, we'll stick with you. You've both been moving in this direction, but let me just ask the question straight out. The Florida Association of District Superintendents recently called for a suspension of the state school grading system until all the kinks, or whatever they may be, are worked out with the FSAT, the replacement for FCAT, based on Florida standards. Is this a good idea, and if so, how long should the school grading be suspended?
Are you asking me to
Yes,
respond?
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson.
That's good. Well, it's the same problem as we had with FCAT. It's unfair to our students to be put into a testing situation in which they have not been adequately prepared. I don't think that FCAT was fair to schools, and particularly students. I don't think a student ought to have to be labeled as failing, or their school labeled as failing, because some high-stakes test has been generated and made by someone who knows nothing about this local community or what is being done to educate our students. The stakeholders are us. We need to be more involved in that process, as opposed to someone coming in and labeling us on some standard or some test that has not been really vetted. It has not been appropriately tested so that we can truly measure what we want our students to know and to achieve.
Mr. Green, same question. Should the school grading system, for the state school grading system, be suspended while the kinks are worked out of the FSAT, the FCAT replacement?
Well, I definitely feel like there's too much emphasis in the state of Florida on testing, no matter what test it is. I mean, it's just, it's unbelievable what the high school, the teachers, guidance people, and all the students and what they're having to go through on this testing. But I do agree with that. I think you need to wait until the kinks have been worked out from this situation. I do not feel like we need to be rushing into administering any test, a Florida Standards test, without people being properly trained. And I just don't think the way everything has came down that our teachers are in a position, I don't care if they have attended workshops, and our students need time in order to, develop success. And we want our students to be successful, and we want our schools to be successful. And it's not about, we want them to receive the highest grade they possibly can.
Mr. Johnson, would you like to add anything?
Well, I think he said what I said earlier, so I don't have a rebuttal to that.
Mr. Green, anything else?
No, sir.
Okay. Mr. Green, finances remain a concern at the school district, although the current administration has made considerable strides in digging us out of a hole. What are some of the other areas we need to work on district-wide in creating a better-run school district?
Well, I think the administration has done a really good job, and the board is working extremely hard to improve finances. If I'm not mistaken, I think the revenue is going to be $92 million for this school year, with expenditures around $86 million. Or that's when they did the millage meeting. That's what it looked like. But I think you've got to look at outside resources. I am definitely not in favor of doing anything with property taxes, and we depend from a standpoint of what we receive is the aid from the state. But I think we need to look at outside resources, such as being able to partnership with, community people, business people, in order to try to help us in this area and see if we can get some relief and help in that area.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, things have gotten better with the budget. What else do we need to work on to make for a better run district?
Well, one of the things that I'm very concerned about is student achievement as it relates to reading. I think that we're going to have to devote more time and resources into developing students' reading skills. I am a teacher, and I do know that if we don't improve students' reading ability, we're going to find ourselves really behind the 8 ball. I think that we need to give parents more of an opportunity to help their student or their child with their reading skills. I am going to be developing a program in conjunction with the community, retired teachers, to help parents help their children, because I think most parents are willing to help their children, but simply don't have the resources or have not been given those skills that the school district can provide. At one point, we had a very good parental involvement program through Title I. It has over the years waned, and I think we need to redevelop that program, improve it, and I'm going to lead the fight to do it.
All right. Mr. Green, would you like to respond?
Well, I'm a very conservative person when it comes to money, and, that's the attitude that I would bring to the school board. That being said, I think that we need to do everything humanly possible in Columbia County to provide the necessary resources for our students, for our teachers, and our administrators to be successful and be able to move to the next level.
Mr. Johnson, anything to add?
Yes, we've had countless meetings in trying to manage our budget. We have not laid off employees in the school district. We've done a great job as managing our resources, both on the staff side and on the student side. We haven't had to withhold any material or development that a student might need, no computer, not anything. We have managed our school budget well, and our students certainly have received all the materials and all of the help that they need to be successful.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, we'll stick with you for the next question. Districts made pretty good strides in recent years on what used to be called vocational education, the Logistics Academy, and so much more. What kind of programs would you like to see like to see added for students to pick from?
Well, what I like to see is that we develop programs in the school district that puts our children directly into the employment sector or in the job market with what we have in our community. The Aerial Corporation is in the process of developing more jobs, so we need to make certain that we're providing the kinds of education in terms of non-academic or career courses that allow kids to go right into the job market, so that we can keep our best and brightest in the community, so that we can keep the electrician, the plumber, the auto mechanic, the auto body person in this community, those who know how to deliver packages. As we are looking at Plum Creek, we need to make certain that we have given our children every opportunity to stay in their community, contribute to the community, and be a great success right at home.
Okay. Mr. Green, what kind of career programs would you like to see added, ideally, to our district?
The career technical education programs, for example, at Columbia High School, they have at least 12 different venues that students can enter. Logistics being one, health occupations, mechanics class. It just goes on. And, you know, these are very good programs that are provided to the students. And if a student, once they complete these vocational programs, they have the opportunity to be able to go back and get certified and receive what you call an industrial certification, which once they come out into the workforce, that gives them a lot better opportunity to be able to be successful in the workforce. Now, the aviation program, which everybody was working extremely hard on at Columbia High School in the county office, kind of fell through. I know there was people that went up to North Carolina to visit, and all that was excellent. But the issue that they ran into, the individual that they were going to hire to do the aviation program could not get the salary up high enough for that individual.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, do you have anything to add?
Well, other than we do have programs in our school district where a student is able to get the certification while in the program, I don't think they have to come back. I think we provide the complete requirement up to certification for those students that are in our vocational programs.
All right. Mr. Green, anything to add?
Yes, I'll clarify that point that he made. I didn't mean come back to school. I mean, while they're there, they have that opportunity to be able to, you know, take the test and get industrial certification, which is, I think, is a very big positive. Instead of just graduating out of the vocational program, they can come out with their certification, and then that gives them a better opportunity, you know, in the workforce.
Okay. Mr. Green, next question. What are your top 3 priorities for the next 4 years if you're elected? And please list them in order of importance.
Okay, my top would be, in what my platform has been and what you've seen on my signs throughout north end of the county, is to improve student achievement. I think that has to be my number one priority, because I think it's very, very important to all the citizens of Columbia County. And, you know, I'm not going into what techniques you need to do to be able to arrive at that. There's different situations and programs that you can put in to really help student achievement. But, you know, it's a teamwork situation with everybody working in that area. Also, I think we need to do everything humanly possible in Columbia County to retain high-quality teachers. I think that, you know, at a couple of schools, we lost a lot of teachers, and we need to find out why we're losing these teachers. Is it low morale because of you know, the things that we're asking them to do, the state's asking them to do with all the testing, salaries, or whatever it might be. And in parental, you know, involvement, I think probably Mr. Johnson and I both agree on that you've got to have parents involved in trying to help you, and with the parent involvement, it's going to make everything much more successful.
Mr. Johnson, what are your 3 top priorities for the next 4 years if you're reelected? Yes. And what are please list them in order of importance.
Okay. The first is student achievement, but a specific type of student achievement, and that would be in the area of reading. I think that we're going to have to develop our staff to be CAR PD trained, which means content area reading. If you teach science, you ought to be able to help your student read well, develop their reading skills in that content area. I don't think reading class is enough with the deficiencies that we find in reading ability in our school district. Our FCAT scores kind of prove that we need to spend a lot more time in developing programs regarding reading, because reading is a core subject that if we can get kids to do it well, it's going to manifest itself in science, in math, all across the curriculum. The second thing I think that we should do is to parental involvement. I think that's a huge priority, because as a teacher, I have kids coming to school who are not prepared to be at school. I think if we get parents more involved in it, we can help out in a great deal. And the third would be to hire teachers that are going to be leaving in a couple years because of retirement.
Mr. Green, anything to add?
No.
Mr. Johnson, last word on this question.
Well, I think the difference is I do know specifically what is it that we need to do. I've been in the area of education. I'm currently in it. I've been on the school board. I know the kinds of programs that we should expect our students and staff to engage in, and I think that's the difference. In terms of my experience and my opponent's experience, I am current on what is the strategies and the innovations in education right at the moment. It's not anything that I have to learn. I already know it.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, last question of the evening, last question for this segment, rather. Being a school board member is in many ways a thankless job. Everyone second guesses everything that you do. Why do you want this job? Why do you, in your case, want it again? And please be very specific.
Is that a question to me?
Yes, Mr. Johnson, yes.
Okay. I have a passion for education. I love teaching. I love students. I prepared myself to be a teacher. I prepared myself to be a school board member. I've worked in this community. I've been involved in all of the programs in this community that help children and bolster them. I've been asked many times to come and MC, do something that is going to help our children. I've committed to that. I've developed mentoring programs. I just didn't decide I just want to be on the school board. I actually prepared myself to be on the school board. And I have the skills and the ability to be an effective school board member. I have been that way for 12 years. I believe a school board member should carry themselves in the utmost respect, with integrity, with commitment, and I've demonstrated that for 12 years. It's not anything that you're going to have to wonder about. I've demonstrated who I am and what I am.
Mr. Green, same question for you. It's a thankless job. Why do you want it?
I think I can be an asset to our community, especially District 1. I feel like District 1 out visiting homes that I constantly heard that, they did not know the incumbent. When they had an issue or situation, they were unable to make contact to help them with that situation. Sometimes they had to seek help from another school board member. But I feel like for his integrity, I don't think anyone can question my integrity or character about what I've been able to accomplish in my 43 years as a teacher and a coach in the state of Florida. Yes, I would be new to the school board, but I can assure you one thing, voters, there's absolutely no one in this county that will work any harder for you and represent you and be more accountable than Daniel C. Green.
Mr. Johnson, any response?
Yes, I do. I don't know who Mr. Green has been talking to, but many people have called my home. I've gone to other people's home to address their problems concerning their children, concerning them at staff meeting, as staff members. I've been involved in my community. I've been involved because I wanted to prepare myself to do the job that I do on the school board. I don't think there's a lot of people. You're always going to have those who perhaps would second guess or figure somebody else can do a better job. But ask that person, what is it that they can do better than the person who's in the job?
Mr. Green.
I visited over 1,300 homes in the primary, and I heard this a lot. They felt like that they needed to change, better representation. I will be your full-time school board member. I will be very accessible to all the parents, citizens, not only in my district, but the entire school system.
And that concludes the question and answer segment. It's time now for each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement. And since Mr. Green went first, he will go last. Candidate Johnson, you have 2 minutes to close.
Thank you very much. Voters, I am your current school board representative for District 1. I have a passion for education. I've set the right example, guiding, supporting our children. I rarely say no to any activity that impacts our children's lives. That is why I'm an educator. That is why I'm on the school board and other committees. My civic duty, it is what I have been called to do. My life work is suited to the school board. Your confidence in me has spanned 12 years. I am a known quantity. You know what you're getting. I've been very busy this summer and fall, asking for support, but found time to teach in vacation and Christian Bible schools. I do everything that I possibly can do to help families in this community, to help students in this community. I have a plan to continue to increase parental involvement. I'm a certified school board member. I'm the only educator on the board, and it has been critically important in many occasions because I had the answer relating to a question that was related to education. I'm a University of Florida graduate. I'm a certified public manager. I've lived in Lake City all of my life. I only left to be educated and come back and contribute to my community. I consider it an absolute honor, as I have for the past 12 years, if you return me to the school board as your District 1 representative. My passion is for students. I'll continue to be strong and devoted to them as I was when I first ran for this office in 1998. I humbly ask you to vote and return me, Leonard Johnson, to the school board as your District 1 representative. I appreciate it kindly.
Thank you very much. And now a 2-minute closing statement from the challenger, Danny Green.
I am running for this very important position because in 2010, the people did not have a choice. I wanted to make sure they had a choice. But I knew that I was a very qualified candidate. I knew that I would be very accountable to the voters of District 1. During my professional career, I always tried to prepare myself with great management and preparation, which allowed me to enjoy great success at any level when dealing with students. Being a head coach gave me the opportunity to develop the management skills to deal with the public on a daily basis. It also, being in charge of a total football program, a $500,000 program, it gave me those skills. The incumbent continues to say that he is the most qualified for this position because he has been reelected. But just having this experience, how has he served your community? When you had an issue, did he answer those needs? Did he return a phone call? Or did you have to seek help from another board member? For us to increase, in order to increase student achievement, we must work together as a team. Teachers, administrators, parents, and board members working for the benefit of all students in Columbia County. I have been a member of that team as a parent, a teacher, and a coach, and now I would like to be a member of that team as your board member. In closing, I was very blessed during my career. I had many wonderful experiences. It gave me the opportunity to make contacts all over the state of Florida and the southeastern part of the United States. People know who I am. They know Danny Green. They know his integrity, the character, work ethic, and leadership skills that he can bring to the board. I will be your full-time board member. Columbia County taxpayers will not be responsible for paying any retirement benefits on my behalf. It would be a great honor and a privilege for me to serve the voters of District 1 and the entire Columbia County school system for the next 4 years.
Thank you very much. And that concludes the second segment of our candidate forums. When we come back on Florida Gateway College Television, we'll meet the candidates for Columbia County Commission District 4. You're watching Florida Gateway College Television. Don't go away.
As a paramedic, you have your own goals and a journey to follow. And that's why Florida Gateway College offers a bridge to success, starting from where you are now.
I wanted more in the medical field. I wanted a steadier pace.
That's why we offer licensed paramedics a way to become a registered nurse in a little over a year.
I love being a nurse. You want to know why? Because I'm making a difference.
Start your journey today at Florida Gateway College.
So good to see you guys. So, what's up?
Oh, we finally bought a place.
Holy cow.
You seriously have enough saved to do that?
We've been putting a little aside each month.
Jeez, at the end of the month, we have nothing left to save.
Yeah, I have no idea where it goes.
Well, you're spending a lot on...
Is it good?
Oh, God.
How is my account overdrawn?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org.
Can you help me with this? My new dad teaches me all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
He helps me with homework.
That would be 3.6795.
Thanks.
Yep.
He helps me with my decision making.
I wouldn't use this one. Ever.
And he's even teaching me how to drive.
And that's why cars have bumpers.
I'm learning so much.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will take you just as you are.
Looking for these? You drive buzzed. It could be one very expensive ride.
First, you gotta make bail. Then pay me to get your car back.
Your insurance premiums will go through the roof.
And my legal fees just keep adding up. All told, it could end up costing you $10,000.
Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back to the third segment of Candidate Forum 2014. I'm Mike McKee, the Executive Director of Media and Public Information here at Florida Gateway College and a member of the Board of Directors of the Lake City Columbia County Chamber of Commerce. Tonight's forum is a joint production of the Chamber of Commerce, the Lake City Reporter, and Florida Gateway College. Let's now meet the remaining candidates for Columbia County District 4. There is no incumbent in this race because current Commissioner Stephen Bailey chose not to run. The two candidates remaining are Everett Phillips and Toby Witt. We drew numbers prior to coming into the studio, and candidate Witt drew the number 1. Mr. Witt, you have 2 minutes to address the voters of your district.
Well, good evening. First, I want to thank the voters for the primary election results. They were very humbled by that result, and thank everybody for turning out and supporting me. My message from the primary to now has essentially not changed. The people are taxed enough. To recover from recession, we need economic growth and not taxation. You need to do it through good economic growth. The taxpayers have bear enough burden. The economy is the issue. All other issues in the county, from road improvement, from flood mitigation, wages, public safety improvement, can be traced back to the economy. If you've got a good economy, you can deal with all those issues. But recovery also has to be twofold. Along with promoting good economic growth, we have to cut the wasteful spending. We spoke out against wasteful spending and took a little heat from the establishment in the primary, but it's something that needed to be said, and I was glad to stand up and say it. I've come to realize in campaigning that everybody has agendas. Our county staff has agendas. Our vendors who want to work for the county have agendas. Our consultants, paid consultants, have agendas. And you got to see through those agendas. The county commissioner needs to have the agenda of the taxpayer at heart, and that's what I want to do. I'm a very vocal candidate, and I'll be a very vocal commissioner. I'll encourage debate and drive discussion. And I thank you all for tuning in tonight, and I thank you for listening to me, and I look forward to the upcoming conversation.
All right, thank you. And now it's time for a 2-minute opening statement from candidate Phillips. Mr. Phillips.
Good evening, everybody. Glad y'all looking at us tonight. We're all pretty and dressed up. Would like to thank everybody that voted last time, and we need y'all to vote again this time. And I am Everett Phillips, and I'm running for County Commissioner District 4. I was born and raised in Lake City, Florida, and been here all my life. I'm a Vietnam vet. I've been married to my wife 47 years. And I have been in a business for 35, 40 years, and I have been in road construction. I have been in building houses, and I have been in handling money, and I know how to do more than just take a little bit of money and spend it. We have to make money and also have to save money. And what I want to see the county do is do more work with less money and save our tax money and minimize our tax money. And I would like to thank everybody for tuning in and vote on November the 4th and early voting next Saturday through the following Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. It's time now for the question and answer segment of the broadcast. And to ask the questions tonight is the editor of the Lake City Reporter, Robert Bridges.
Mr. Witt, if elected, What's your first official act going to be upon taking office?
I want to meet with the Economic Development Director and Economic Development Board. I think that economic development is, and the economy is, the prime issue in this county. So that would be my first act, to get up to speed with what they're doing, what they're working on, and see how I can help encourage those items.
Mr. Phillips, same question. If elected, what will your first official act be upon taking office?
My first official act would be like to get with all of the other commissioners and decide exactly what they're doing, how they're doing it, and we need to learn from one another which direction we need to go in. And like I say, save the tax money and just try to get with the other commissioners and just do the best we can with what we got.
Mr. Witt, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I agree that meeting with the other commissioners is important, but I for one, want to hit the ground running. That's my number one issue in the campaign, and it'll be my number one issue when I'm elected. So that'll be my first priority from day one.
Mr. Phillips, last word on this question goes to you.
Well, like Toby says, I'm not going to hit the ground running because I'm too old to run. But anyway, I'm going to do the best I can and see if we can and get with the other commissioners and do whatever we need to do to get more out of our dollar, squeeze it harder.
Okay, next question for you, Mr. Phillips. Let's talk about economic development in District 4. What specific projects or plans do you have to bolster the economy in this part of the county?
Well, the Plum Creek project is going to be a real boost to the economy in this county. And I think it's coming on down the line. We've signed some papers with the railroad, but we haven't done anything. I wish we could get some progress started, but that's not able to do that right now. And I also want to try to do some kind of a ag expo deal or down around in our district around Interstate 75 and 41, and maybe we can improve a whole lot of stuff going on in our district where we need it.
All right, Mr. Witt, what specific projects or plans do you have in mind for District 4?
Well, if you look at District 4, the Ellisville interchange in particular, and you look 30 years ago, we've regressed. We haven't gone forward. 30 years ago, we had 2 large truck stops. We had several hotels. We had several stores. And we've gone back in time there. A lot of property that needs to be upgraded and a lot of room for growth just to bring us back to where we were 30 years ago. So that's a concern. If you drive down Highway 75, there's not a large truck stop when you leave Hamilton County until you get to Marion County. I think that's a prime project you could take on right away. Along with that, Mr. Phillips mentioned Plum Creek. Plum Creek is a good project. We're going to have to work closer with Plum Creek to do that. But I said this in the primary. Plum Creek is a private enterprise deal, and they're going to work hard on that, and we're going to work with them. But that's going to be driven by private industry. So we as commissioners have to look for other areas to bring growth to our economy.
Mr. Phillips, anything to add?
The Ellisville area, I agree with Toby that we had big truck stops before. We had a bunch of motels. We don't have anything now. So we need to do something in our area to produce a little bit more money in our end of the county. And like I say, something to do with the farmers would help a whole lot in that end of the county. So I'm all for trying to help us maybe get a truck stop or something in that area.
All right. Mr. Witt, do you have anything to add?
Just that, anything we do down there as far as a ag center or I think he's alluding to the event center that was proposed. That has got to be the number one concern with that is when you propose that, it's got to be sold on the basis is it a good return on investment for the taxpayer? And I think when that was brought up before, it wasn't. I'm open to spending money to develop and promote economic growth, but the first question that has to be asked when you do that is it going to be a return on investment for the taxpayer?
Mr. Witt, next question to you. There's been a lot of talk of late about Bell Road and the fairly urgent need to develop it right away. Why the big rush to develop Bell Road?
I don't know what the big rush to develop Bell Road is because when that was talked about in the commission, it wasn't explained very well. I think that's a problem with our commission. Is you need when these things come up, if it's an issue on that county commission agenda, you need to be able to explain the ins and outs and what the benefits are. And we didn't get that. I'm still confused. I know a lot of people in the community are so confused as to what the benefit of that road is. Part of it's in a swamp. Maybe there is some tie-in, and maybe it would be good. But if you're gonna talk about it in a meeting, somebody needs to be selling it, and nobody's selling that right now.
Mr. Phillips, what is your take on the Bell Road project that's been proposed?
Well, I don't think Bell Road project is a real important project because, like I say, it is. Toby said there's a lot of swampy area there, and there is. The only reason it might be need to be done is because it would tie 441 and 41 together and make a nice little bypass road through there, and where maybe trucks and so forth could go that way rather than go kind of in the townward area there.
Okay, Mr. Witt, anything to add?
Just that, again, what is the benefit? Somebody needs to be saying that. That needs to be the first question answered. If it is a bypass road, do we need it? Why do we need it? And what's the return on investment for the taxpayer?
Okay, Mr. Phillips, you get the last word on that question.
Well, I agree with that. Yes, the taxes is we don't really need to spend no more taxes, but still, even if it was a bypass road, it would help some of the traffic downtown.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, next question to you. What is your take on percent-based budgeting soon to be in effect for the sheriff's office? Is that a good idea?
Well, he needs some more budgeting in his budget. Yes, I agree with that. I'm not fully agree with all of it, but he does need some assistance on some of the jail projects and even the radio assistance. All of the county needs some of the radio assistance. But yes, he needs some assistance, so let's bear with him and give whatever we can to him anyway.
Mr. Witt, what is your take on percent-based budgeting?
Well, it's a unique concept. I think it's good. I think it's good in this way that in times of economic prosperity, his percent of that budget goes up, and he's got more to work with. But in times of downturn, when taxpayers are having to cut back and the county commission's having to cut back, well, the sheriff has to cut back too. So it's an interesting proposition to me. I, in concept, support it, and I can't wait to see how it works.
All right, Mr. Phillips, do you have anything to add?
I think it will work in some way to put some more money in our jail to kind of improve it, and that's really what we really need.
Okay, Mr. Witt, last word on that question.
Well, the jail was a hot topic in the primary. I think in times of economic prosperity, if the sheriff chose to put money in the jail or anywhere else in his budget, he can. I think that's the whole concept of it, and I think it takes a lot of you eliminate the blame game between county commission and sheriff. So I think that little area is gone. So.
Next question for you, Mr. Witt. Your job as a county commissioner, at least in part, is to promote Columbia County as a place businesses should want to move to come to, and to grow. What would you have to say to some visiting CEO about our home here? Give me your best 1-minute pitch for Columbia County.
Well, I-75 and I-10 has always been a good pitch. Plus, you've got you're in Florida. You're in North Florida. You're an hour away from both coasts, so you've got great recreation. You've got our springs for recreation. You've got a University of Florida. You've got Florida State University. You're close to colleges, so you've got education. I think that you have large rural urban areas around us, so you can draw into workforce. I don't understand why Columbia County hasn't been a prime time destination for major industry.
Mr. Phillips, same question to you. Give me your best, if you would please, sir, 1-minute pitch for Columbia County.
Well, Columbia County has what I call a wagon wheel. They have 75, they have 10, they have 90, have 247, 41, 441, and Highway 90. That would give anybody a good chance to look at Lake City and say, hey, look, we've got roads, we can go anywhere we want to go. And I think that they could utilize all of the roads and put their money in this county and help us a whole lot.
Okay, Mr. Witt, anything to add?
I think the question needs to be asked, what have we done wrong? Why haven't we seen growth of bigger players in Columbia County? And I think it's going to take working close with our Economic Development Board, our Economic Development Director, and actually going out and going after these big companies.
Mr. Phillips, any response from you, sir?
Well, yep, the economic development needs to reach out to some of these bigger companies and see if they can get them interested in something here in Lake City, and that would help Columbia County a whole lot too.
Mr. Phillips, next question for you. The Tourist Development Council recently heard a presentation on the possible need for the county to pay between $1.4 and $1.8 million to have the Columbia High School track refurbished. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I don't know how much track resurfacing they need, but $1.4 million is a lot of money to be working on a track. But if that be what they need to do that, it looks like the school board should be able to afford their own deal and take care of that themselves.
Mr. Phillips, same question for you. TDC has heard a presentation on a $1.4 to $1.8 million project to refurbish the Columbia High School track. What are your thoughts? Questions?
Well, it's not just a $1.4 million to refurbish the track, because the refurbishment of the football field was in that too. And then when we did that, we had to do some work for Fort Wyatt. So that $1.4 million project is now probably a $3 or $4 million project. So that's concerning right there. What is the return on investment to doing this track? Where's the presentation that says, if you do this, this is the economic impact, this is what will come? And I think that is a key component that's missing to a lot of these projects. I do agree with Mr. Phillips. It seems like it resides in the school board, and it seems like in times of recession that we should be more wisely spending our money, unless there is an economic impact. And like I said, I don't think that's been sold.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, you have anything to add?
Not really, just that I think that the school system should be supporting their own self, and the county shouldn't really be involved in a whole lot of stuff like they have got themselves into in the last few years.
Mr. Witt, last word on this question.
I agree. It's a school board project. Again, unless that you can have a tangible economic impact, where if you spend taxpayer money on this is a return we'll get. And that's a litmus test for every project like this, I think. And to me, it hasn't been done.
Next question for you, Mr. Witt. We all want growth. We all want jobs for Columbia County. Are there any kinds of businesses or jobs that we may not want in our town?
I think you got to be careful at the industries that could harm our environment. But, short of that, I don't think so. I think, good paying jobs, jobs beyond the $10 an hour, 100 people, employers. Let's go after the big fish. If you go out in rural Texas, rural South Carolina, you'll see Toyota plants, Nissan plants. Why can't Columbia County go after big players like that?
Okay, Mr. Phillips, same question for you. Are there any kinds of businesses or jobs that we may not want in our town?
No, not really. I don't think as long as they got good people and good money, we can take all the businesses we need. It doesn't matter how big they are, whatever they are. Like Toby said, you can go all over the place and find big businesses scattered all over the country. So, like I say, we're a wagon wheel. We should be able to have any kind of business we want here.
Mr. Witt, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, just again, other than any kind of industry that had a bad track record of harming our springs, our natural resources, I think we've got to be real careful of that in North Florida.
Mr. Phillips?
I agree. We do not want anything to harm our waterways. We need to keep our good water that we've got, even our well water. We've got real good well water in this area. And our rivers, we don't need nobody to pump any water out of them. So, therefore, we need to keep that kind of business out of here.
Okay, Mr. Phillips, what are your top 3 priorities for the next 4 years if elected? Please be very specific, and please list them in order of importance as you see it.
Importance is, to me right now, is to help some of the people in this county that's not making enough money to live on. They have to have food stamps to make a living. Next, I would say that we need to get like a ag expo or a farmer's market or something in Columbia County, even if it has to, I'd rather it be at 75 and 41. And then we could make sure we need to do some road paving in our district that needs to be quite a bit of work done on some of those.
Mr. Witt, what are your top 3 priorities for the next 4 years? If you're elected, please be very specific and please list them in order of importance as you see it.
Well, let's recover from recession with good economic growth. That's number one. I think if you do that, a lot of the other road paving and other county problems will take care of itself through the increased revenue. Let's keep taxes reduced and cut wasteful spending. And let's bring debate and conversation back to the Board of County Commissioners. Let's actually talk about items. And, let's make these department heads and these committees, when they bring stuff to us, actually have to come sell it to us, actually come give us the facts, like some of the items we've mentioned previously in this conversation.
Okay. Mr. Phillips, do you have anything you'd like to
add? Not really. No, I'm good on that.
All right. Mr. Witt.
Yes, I'm good too.
Okay, good enough. Okay, last question of the evening for Mr. Witt. Why is there, this is a question that comes up generally every 2 years during these forums, why is there not a better working relationship between city and county officials? Who or what's to blame?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, how many city commission meetings do you see a county commissioner sitting in the audience in and vice versa? So I think that's a big first step right there, is just showing up. I don't know why the relationship's so strained. It seems like power hungry on both sides. Maybe I think you need a communicator in there, somebody who can communicate both to the Board of County Commissioners and to the city. And I think you need some new ideas. I think that a collaborative relationship between the county and city would have saved us a lot in utilities and working together on utilities. There's public safety, law enforcement. There's all kind of things we could do to work together that would save both the city and county money if that relationship was better, and I think it needs to be a priority.
Mr. Phillips, why is there not a better relationship, in your view, between city and county officials?
I just really think that the county and the city officials do not communicate well enough. They don't get together and talk about things, and like Toby said, we need to have some of the city commissioners meeting with the county commissioner meetings and vice versa, and they can deal with all of these different problems and save our money for whatever it may be as far as rescue and fire, all that kind of stuff.
Okay, Mr. Witt, would you like to add anything?
I just reiterate, the first step is showing up, and I've been to city council meetings, and I haven't seen that happen. So.
All right, Mr. Phillips, anything to add?
We just need to get together with all the people and just meet once in a while. If nothing else, just have a social meeting somewhere with the city and the county people and see what all we can do together.
And that concludes the question and answer portion of this segment. It's time now for each candidate to make a 2-minute closing statement. And since candidate Witt went first, he will go last. Candidate Phillips, you have 2 minutes to make a closing statement to the voters of Columbia County.
Yes, I'm Everett Phillips, and I'm running for County Commissioner District 4. And I would like to have all of the people come out and vote. Vote for me if you can. If you can, I understand that too. But we would like to help be with the people. I want to be with people all the time. I want to be exposed to all of the people with a phone number that they can call me, and I can be on just a phone call away for them. And I would like to be wherever they need me to be. And so I sure would like to invite everybody out to early voting on Saturday through the next Saturday and on November the 4th, and vote Everett Phillips for County Commissioner, District 4. Thank you.
And now a closing statement from candidate Toby Witt.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about my qualifications. I work for the largest aeromedical provider in the world. I'm over the state of Florida operations as a logistics and operations manager. I began as a flight paramedic with this company 12 years ago, and I worked my way up from that role to where I'm at now. I have about a $30 million budget I manage, so I have budget experience. I got a home-based office, so my office is at home, and I set my own schedule, so I'm available to do this role as commissioner. In the primary, was very vocal, spoke out, and I've heard, well, that Toby, he's a radical. And I just want to say to that if standing up against wasteful spending, if supporting recovery through strong economic development and decreased tax burden, and if being vocal and not afraid of the microphone and not afraid to stand up for the taxpayers is radical, then I'll be a radical. So I want to thank the Chamber, I want to thank FTC and the reporter for this forum, and I want to encourage everybody to get out and vote on November 4th or in early voting. Thank you.
All right. That concludes the third and final segment of our broadcast for the general election, a much smaller election than we're used to seeing. I'd like to thank all the candidates for their attendance, and would like to thank our sponsors, Potash Corporation of White Springs and Andrade Insurance Services, for sponsoring this. On behalf of the Chamber Government Relations Committee, Florida Gateway College, and the Lake City Reporter for Robert Bridges, I'm Mike McKee. Please do get out and vote. Good night.
Thank you.